So today what we're going to do is we're going to make the power-ups actually work. That means make the bat get longer for a short period of time. Make the ball slow down when we catch that power-up. We're going to do all of that in the bat object. So I'm going to go to the bat object, double click on it, and then I'm going to add the event for the collision with the power-up object. Now, one thing we want to make sure we do is let's make sure that we destroy the power-up object right away. That way, we don't forget to do that. And then we end up having this situation where as the power-up flows through the bat, it continues to apply the power-up, which is not what we want. We want to go ahead and right away click on, we're going to add destroy instance. But remember, we're currently inside of the, we're currently in the bat. So I want to change this so that we don't destroy the bat. We need to destroy the power-up. So I'm going to click on the drop-down, and I'm going to click Other. Remember, Other is the code word that means the thing that I'm colliding with. Okay? I could expressly destroy the power-up. However, it would destroy all the instances of the power-up, including those I haven't caught yet. So, in this case, it is critically important that we leave it as Other, because it's going to destroy only the instance that I caught, not all the other instances in the room. Okay? So now that I've got that, now we can get on to which power-up do we have. Okay? Now, the power-up is being determined by some random number, but all the random number is doing is assigning a certain image index, or assigning a certain frame of the image to the power-up, which means we have a built-in way to figure out what value or what power-up we have if we just look at the image index, because the image index corresponds to a specific power-up. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go and I'm going to get an instance variable. I'm actually going to drag this above so that I don't, because I realized that I wanted to put the destroy instance in there. I just want to make sure that I have it in there. I'm going to put the get instance variable above the destroy instance. So, and again, this one, I want the other instance variable. So I'm going to click and get the other. Okay. Again, very important that it's the other and not the general OBJ power-up. And what we want is we want the image index. So we're going to scroll down until we see that. Image index. That's just the frame number of the sprite that is currently on the screen. Okay? And then the target, I'm going to call it power-up. I can call it power-up because the other time that I used power-up was in the brick object, and that doesn't matter because it's in the brick object, not in the ball or the bat object. So, oops, not what I wanted. Try it again. Power-up. I'm just going to ignore that. I'm going to go ahead and make it a temporary variable because we're just using it for this process. Okay? So, the index right now is either a 0 or a 1. 0 is for elongation, 1 is for slow ball. However, I would like to make it easier for myself when it comes to adding a power-up. If I say I want to add the multi-ball power-up, right? I want to make it so that we can have multiple balls, or I want to make it so that the bat can catch the ball, or something like that. I want to add an extra power-up. I want to make that easier for myself. Because I could do this simply with just if statements. If power-up is 0, then do this. If power-up is 1, do this. But if I'm going to do that, and I'm basing it all on the same variable, we can use something else called a switch. I'm going to scroll down. It's going to be a gray. Right? It's in this loop. I think no, it's not in the loops. It's after the loops. There we go. So it's in the category called switch. And you'll see it looks like a what you would see in a electrical diagram for a switch that would turn a light on or off. It's a couple of circles. They've got lines coming from the outside of the circles, and then there's an angled line in the middle. It's called a switch. The idea is that a switch is going to give me a whole bunch of different options of one variable value. And the image index we know is only going to be integers because it's counting whatever frame. So I'm going to click and drag a switch out underneath that getInstance variable. And the value I'm going to use is the powerup value. Okay? And so what it's going to do is the switch is going to check what the value of powerup is, and then we need to add two of these cases. And you'll notice the switch is going to operate like an if statement, or like an else, or like a loop. I need to put things to the right. So I'm going to add two cases to the right. 1, 2. Okay? And it says constant. That's because I need to give an actual number here. Because these are the cases of that variable. So the value is powerup. Whatever powerup's value is, I want to check. Well, I'm going to leave the first one as 0, and I'm going to change this to 1. Okay? Now what I could do, and I think I have it somewhere here, maybe not. I won't worry about it. But we just need to know that 0 is elongation and 1 is slow ball. Right? So we're going to put all the code for what happens with either one of those inside of this. So it's kind of now a nested version. We're going to do this just like we did with an if statement, attach stuff to the right. Okay? Let's get the slow ball out of the way because that's the easier one to do. All we're doing is we're going to reset the speed of the ball to the initial speed. Now remember, we deliberately set up a layer of distance between setting the speed variable and changing the actual speed of the ball. So we're not going to use a set speed, we're going to use an assign variable block instead. Because we're going to change the speed variable to the initial speed. So not that. Go all the way up here. There we go. Assign variable. And I'm going to attach that to the right of case 1. The name is SPD for the speed. And then init speed for the value. Oops. So, because remember, in the ball... Now, here's the other thing we need to do. Almost forgot. We need to select... We got to apply this to the ball, not the bat. So I got to click the arrow over here and select the OBJ ball. Okay? So again, because we're working in the bat, but we want to affect the ball, we have to click the arrow, select ball. It'll turn purple, or the border will turn purple. And then we just have the speed, the SPD variable, and the init speed value that we set at the beginning. Okay? And that'll return the ball to its original speed. The other one, elongation, we need to start an alarm, or set an alarm, for 10 seconds. Then when that alarm, and then we need to make the bat wider. And then when the alarm goes off, we need to make the bat shorter again. Okay? So, first thing for case 2 is we're going to set an alarm. So it's called set alarm countdown. So I'm going to click and drag it to the right of the case 0. Okay. The alarm is just the alarm number. You can click and see there are up to 12 different alarm numbers, starting with 0 and going up to 11. It doesn't matter which one you do. We just need to remember which one we choose so that when we go to that event, we go to the correct alarm event. So in the countdown, we're doing 10 seconds. But here's the issue. Countdown is not measured in seconds. Countdown is measured in steps. 1 second is 30 steps. So if we're going to do 10 seconds, we need 300 steps. Okay, so it's an important thing to note. Countdown for an alarm countdown is measured in steps, not in seconds. And that's because of how we do the programming. Like each step, something happens. So we want to make sure that we're counting in a way that makes sense for the game. So we're counting in steps. That means that our countdown, in order to get 10 seconds, we have to put 300 for 300 steps. Okay? So that sets the alarm. The alarm's going to start counting down. Then we need to make the bat wider. Okay? That is the set the instance scale. So we're going to drag that puppy out. Set instance scale. Okay? Now you're going to notice that it's going to have us set both the horizontal and vertical scales. Okay? If you treat these numbers like percentages, but in decimal form, it will make sense. 1 means we're not changing it at all. It's going to be the same scale that it currently is. Okay? Now, if I were to click relative, and I'll click it just for the moment. If I were to click relative, what that means is that I'm going to add 1 to the horizontal scale, which is going to double its size, which is not what I want. Okay? I find in this case, for this particular application, it's easier to just set numbers straight up. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to set the horizontal scale to 1.5. That's going to be my elongation. I'm going to give the player an extra half. The vertical I'm going to leave as 1. We're not blowing the thing up. We're just making it wider. Okay? And again, 1.5 is going to be 150%, 1.5 times the size. Vertical, leaving it at 1, is going to leave the vertical as it'll leave the vertical as the same size. Now, if I were wanting to do something like stack those, right? Then I would use relative, because then I would add 0.5. And what this does is it makes sure that we can't stack them. We'll just restart the it'll restart the timer, basically. Okay, we're halfway there with elongation. If we played this now, what you would notice is that we'd set the timer, the bat would elongate, and then it would never stop, or it would never go back to its original size. And that's because we haven't done anything in the alarm event. So before we actually test, we have to go to the alarm event. We're done with the collision event for the power-up. Now we need to add the alarm event. When we go to alarm, it gives us all the alarm options, all 12. I'm going to click on alarm 0, since that's the one. Remember, we used alarm 0 here. So we're going to the alarm 0 event. And this will trigger after those 10 seconds are up. The alarm goes off. And then we say, Alexa, stop. No. We actually need to reset the instance scale back down to 1 and 1. So really, if you just drag out the instance scale, the set instance scale, you shouldn't have to do anything else. Right? Because that'll return the instance back to its original scale. And that's pretty much it. We just want the instance to go back. We want the bat to go back to its original size. So now it's time to see if our power-ups work. The idea here, you might want to wait a little while on if the slow ball comes early, because that way you can definitely see that there's a difference in speed. But the elongation, go ahead and catch it, and then also catch it a second time while the elongation is enforced, to see if it doesn't redo or doesn't stack up. It shouldn't, by the way we did it. So here we go. And it looked like that. There we go. Elongation works. Okay. So now we've mitigated the difficulty of the ball speeding up by adding those two things, right? And then you've also created some tension with the player, because now, see, I had to decide, did I want to keep the elongation or did I want to actually keep the ball in the air? So now the game becomes a little bit more fun to play. I had to make a decision there too. So there we go. That was a definite slowdown there. So all right, that's it for now.